That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a reminder, tickets are still available for our conference in May 13th through 16th, Grafton, Illinois. I can finally say it's this year. Happy New Year, everybody. Those tickets are available at rebelsofdisclosure.com. That link is below. Live stream tickets are also available, which we recommend. Obviously, if you can't make it in person, joining virtually is always a good idea. And it will be interactive. You will be able to ask questions. If the presenter is doing a live Q&A at the end, you will be able to ask questions on the live stream. So that's a really cool feature. And Hopewell Farm CBD, if you guys are looking for a great CBD to try, Eric and Nancy from Hopewell Farm, they're amazing. They basically set the intention. They put positive energy into the plants while they grow them. They made everything's organic and homemade, and it's a really great product. And you get 15% off all their products with promo code JTTNew. That link is below also. But tonight we decided to kick off the new year with Gene Decode. It's been a long time coming to have him back on the show, and we're really excited to get into this whole year. Just looking forward to current events, everything that's taking place right now. There's so much to cover, and Gene is a wealth of information, so we're happy to have you back. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Aaron and Tyler. Thank you, Tyler, for your kindness and your invitation, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. God bless.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. So honored to have you back.
So let's just get really current. Like right now, what do we see happening? We have earthquakes and tsunamis all over the world, power outages, a long list of power outages. There's a lot happening, and I know what we see on the surface it's not always, as it seems. And there is a shadow war being fought right now, as we know. And what are your thoughts, opinions about all of this that's just suddenly taking place right now with these natural disasters?
Yes, so what we're seeing is a combination of things. That we're having earthquake wars literally now with the Cabal, where the Alliance has, as you've probably been aware, me kind of starting out as the dumb Decode guy, not dumb as in stupid, but deep underground military bases. And I came out with that and I hit it over and over because Phil Snyder and Martin William Cooper had talked about them, but nobody seemed to know. And Phil Snyder lost his life for talking about it and doing hardcore evidence. He had elements that don't normally occur on Earth. He showed us 2 fingers that he lost, the scars in the battle in Dulce. I believe that was in Dulce. And so I pounded it hard and got hit hard at first. The first clamper they sent after me said there's no such thing. How ludicrous. This was actually a Satanist. he was a warlock, and it's how ridiculous that there would be, and where's the money coming from? Pretty much now with what Dr. Greer has put out, we know where the money's coming from. The massive money laundering projects like green renewables and that fake narrative, the war in Ukraine, all of these wars forever, the human trafficking. There's massive supply of income that they have to be able to do this. It's not that hard. So That's ongoing and something that has been going since 1945. They've been putting these bases in place using nuclear weaponry, where they make a big blast that creates a huge underground cavern. And then once they evacuate the radiation using liquid nitrogen and things to pull that out, cool it down really quickly. Then shortly after that, they already have the boring machines, and I've shown Decodes. I've got another Decode on that I'm currently updating and working on. I'll have that up on my website on gtgo.org. And I showed that on Roseanne Barr's platform as well when she interviewed me of these technologies. It's not hard to find. You go into the patent office and there's tons and tons of deep underground boring machines, what they call the something turns. Sorry, my mind slips right now. The subterranes, like submarines, subterranes. So they dig under the ground and they use a myriad of different technologies. And they've been creating this. They love their symbols, as all of us now know, at 33,000 feet or 10 kilometers. And now that we see off the coast of Japan, every single earthquake off the southwestern coast of the main island of Japan are all at 10 kilometers deep. That's an alliance takeout of a dome. They don't hit themselves like that. And so the alliance is now, has done a lot, and they have defeated and are defeating. I've seen James Gill, he's extremely upset, which I can understand, but you have to realize the nature of the Cabal. Millions of years here since 1967, and they realized with Kennedy, they thought they were ready. The alliance started, from my research, in 1903 with von der Graaf, Tesla, Howard Hughes, and a few generals to stop this huge satanic cabal that wanted to take over the earth. And as they learned what Kennedy had said, who was getting us off the Federal Reserve, he started printing silver certificates. And, the money up until 1933 had said it was redeemable in lawful currency, which means it's not lawful currency. It's fiat. It's fake. And so they've learned that it took much more technology to protect the president, cloning all of this like they do now with Trump. His regular clone is out with a red tie running around, but the real Trump is in Cheyenne Mountain, which was been bottled up in a DEFCON 2, like I put out in about 19, showing my age, researching all this 30 years, 2018, they locked up Cheyenne Mountain. Once they cleared out Area 58 and also Cheyenne Mountain and Denver, which is from the Federal Center, was meant to be, Federal Center in Denver lays between 6th Avenue and Alameda up near towards the mountain area. As you go up Highway I-70, it's off to the side there. And that whole area has a nuclear reactor under there. And it was to be their Western White House when they create the global earth changes that they had planned that would submerge the entire eastern seaboard, for example, like with Las Palmas, and falling into the ocean. With the alliance stopped. But you got to realize that the alliance cannot be everywhere doing everything all at once. You have an enemy that's completely entrenched into every organization. Once you get over 40 people, or they know using Looking Glass at the time when they used to use it, that you're going to be able to get to that point. They're going to infiltrate you. I'm fairly sure I've got the infiltration out of my own organization. We had infiltration from the very beginning. They knew I was going to be in. I'd be getting this information about the underground bases out. They don't want that out. So go ahead. Sorry, Tyler, you're going to say something.
Yeah, no, yeah. So, okay, well, I have a couple questions, but the first one would be, why now? Why at the turn of the new year are we just suddenly seeing this uptick of these earthquakes and tsunamis, power outages? Is what happened? Was this planned? I know it's a war and things change in the fog of war, but maybe, do you have any insight on, why now?
Because they're getting ready to drop big intel, big, huge arrest wars are getting ready to break out. Most of the arrests have already happened. Many people have been saying that. I said it a long back when I was with Kirsten, and people said I quit saying it because people were saying I'm out of my mind. That's very hard to prove. The dumbs are not hard to prove. The next clamper said, yeah, there are some. They always back down their narrative, like Cheyenne Mountain and Iron Mountain and a few of those, but there's not 10,000 all over the world and hundreds of thousands of miles of tunnels and over 300, over 200 at the time. I now know it's way over 300 in the U.S. alone. Every single military base in the United States and almost U.S. military base in the world has a dome under it. So they are cleaning that out. They've cleaned out the Vatican, the tunnel that went from the Vatican all the way to Jerusalem. They're cleaning out the tunnels. Hamas is actually working with the Alliance in cleaning out the tunnels going from Turkey, which is where the Holy Land in Eden would originally are, is in Turkey, and it's in the Bible between the major rivers of the Tigris, the Euphrates, and one other river, which is coming out of Iran. If you look in the map, it said it was between 3 rivers or 4 rivers. And there's an area in Turkey as well as in Iraq that is like that. That's the Holy Land. They came up through the Fertile Crescent, the Hebrews, the true Jewish people, not the Zionists. Those are not the true. So they're hitting the Zionists. They're taking out the major families, the Peshawars. The one thing I would say, James Gill has not done his research on the Cabal and on the Alliance. From 19.
Oh, we just lost you.
With Terry Cassidy and Patriot Underground, he's wearing, I know it's the symbol for the Boy Scouts, but that's also a fleur-de-lis symbol, which is a symbol of the Peshawar family. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, you cut out for a couple seconds, so maybe you just want to repeat what you just said there.
So James Gill, I know he's very upset, but you've got to understand, you cannot in a war, even if you're winning, just go everywhere and do everything all at once in every single organization and every underground base and every trafficking situation of children on Earth. It's not just about the U.S. It's about the entire human race, the entire Earth, our entire solar system, and even the Milky Way. Are we going to go out and go do everything all at once? That's not how you wage war. They are following Sun Tzu's Art of War perfectly. So, one reason I know he probably hasn't researched well is that interview with Terry Cassidy and Patriot Underground. If you want to get your point across, first of all, do not interrupt people every single time they talk. He interrupted. Yeah. There's never a time. Do not get angry and curse at other people. Even when Patriot finally muted him, I can read lips to a degree. He was literally doing the F-bomb at the screen, and he was very angry. And I understand that. But they can't take out everything. They've taken out the Vatican dome that with the tunnels that went all the way to Jerusalem. They cleared 150 miles of gold in that underground tunnel and found out it also goes to underneath CERN. It's underneath the entire Alp system, and that's full of gold and missing art treasures. They've also cleared out Dulce, Area 51. They've defeated the Orion group, the Chakar group, the Killy-Toker group. And how are they doing this? They're doing it by taking the children and saving the children, because that's their food supply. That's how they defeated the Killy-Toker. Any beings don't make a series of good choices if they're starving to death. They are the ones, the Killy-Toker, that are doing the main soul scalping. And so they are in the process of taking all of these systems out. And, it's a process. And like you said, in the fog of war, it's back and forth. And people go, how many percentage? Yeah, I could have done that if we want to talk about, I can do that with the major domes on the Earth. But you talk about every single tunnel. There's tunnels that go all, and your piece on the Hollow Earth, both you and Aaron, phenomenal. Go all the way to the center of the Earth, and the Earth is absolutely hollow. And I have a full decode on the expanding Earth and the Hollow Earth, and a Hollow Earth series as well. Your research was phenomenal. You got a lot of information, some I had not found. And so it is just, the Earth is a honeycomb of tunnels, ancient deep underground, NAZI underground stuff all over Ukraine. Ukraine is just tunneled everywhere. The NAZIs did it all over. They had their wolf bases, dumps underground in Ukraine, underground all over. Wherever Germany had taken, they had dumps, and they had tunnels connecting them with all their wolf bases. So we have those updates in Decodes on Deep Dives also about all of this NAZI, Third Reich, and now Fourth and Fifth Reich stuff. And they're taking out You have to take out the enemy's strongholds first, because they have bolt holes, big, huge, powerful bolt holes. So what we're seeing is they're taking out now the lower strongholds, like in Japan, off the coast of Japan. Those are strongholds where they're dug in, and you've got to take those out. Otherwise, your enemy will come out like roaches when you turn the lights off.
So
Right.
do we, I mean, I would imagine that, the underground looks like a gigantic ant colony. If you've seen those videos where they pour concrete or mercury or something into the ant colony and they uncover it, and it's just a massive tunnel network. And that's, just expand that on a global scale. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And it's not just, there's always moves and counter moves. You're not just going to go wipe out a base and not expect something in return, a counter move. And, you never know what that is and, what type of ripple effect that'll have. So it's understandable. It's back and forth. And people get frustrated because on the surface, it looks like nothing's changing within the political arena. Actually, it seems like things are getting worse. And that leads into my next question. So where does this information come from? And I know you've talked about this before, but the information that the Alliance, White Hats, whatever, is actually doing this underground cleanup, where does that information stem from?
Well, again, Martin William Cooper put it out. Phil Schneider talked about it. Kerry Cassidy has done insider interviews for over 20 years, I believe. Stephen Greer's now putting it out, and that's the first layer of the disclosure. There will be more. We're going to have a second round when the real powerful stuff comes out. If you do your research, it's out there. If you don't know what's going on, you look at, it's always what I call projection, and we all know what that now means, is we see what Putin's doing in Russia, slow, methodical, and not hitting civilian targets. Yes, he bombed a hotel, but the hotel was full of people who were the ones that planned the bombing in Volgograd. A civilian, 22 people died. And then the West media, mainstream media, says, see, he's hitting a civilian area, a hotel. Yeah, that's where all the people, the Azov and the NATO and generals and et cetera, that planned the attack on Volgograd. So how do you know an enemy is losing is when they get desperate and they start doing things that are not, they're expending the limited amount of ammunition and missiles, drones, et cetera, to hit targets that don't really mean anything other than propaganda to help their people believe that we're winning. Like you hear, the head of the EU, Joseph Borrell, and he comes out on the day before Christmas, I believe it was, and he said, on the 666th day of the Russian offensive, Ukraine has won. Won what?
Right.
Defeat of NATO. The EU is collapsing. Our economy is struggling. And they love their numbers. Why do you pick that day to say it? It's incredibly obvious. You're into propaganda. You're into it all, because if you look what's really happening in Ukraine, you go and get people. I have people that communicated with me from all over the world, including Ukraine. Go to Ukraine and see the amount of grave sites in Western Ukraine. It is off the chart. And now they're wanting, you don't say you're going to mobilize every man, woman, and child in Ukraine now. They say they're going to mobilize 40 million. They want 500,000. Some of them are saying, no, we got to mobilize 40 million. They don't even have 40 million anymore. A lot of them fled early on. Plus, you've lost close to even on Ukrainian news. Let me give what Ukrainian news had, a little ticker going across the bottom of the page. It said 1.1 million lost or missing. That was in Ukrainian news, and they had to print a retraction because Zelensky told them to. How do you know it's not a democracy? It's simple. He's attacking and jailing the party would run against him. Same as we see in our banana republic. Same thing. Attack Trump and try to put him in jail. That's the definition of a banana republic. You have even my name, Gene Decode, if you put that in the title of a YouTube too many times on your channel, you'll lose your YouTube. My name is in the algorithms and it'll get you censored, then you don't have free speech at all.
Right.
You can't even put NAZI, say that word out loud on a YouTube without getting censored, or COVID-19, Alex Christopher always says the goof, because it'll get your YouTube pulled. What kind of free is that? They're losing when they're doing every single thing. You see this when Germany was falling. They started getting children down to the age of 16. We're seeing that in Ukraine. Men up to the age of 70, they started doing that in Germany. Those people get in the way of the real fighters, the real powerful, well-trained NAZI forces Germany had and the Banderites had in Ukraine. They are depleted to the point where they have very small forces, and every gain they got in this last counteroffensive, they've lost now. And the Russians are slowly advancing and keeping the cauldron of Avdiivka open so they can feed the rest of their forces in. It's like, what kind of art of war did you learn? You're idiots at war. So thank you. Go ahead.
So,
well said.
Right. And the whole 666 thing, they say you say they love their symbols, and they do, but also that's also how they perform their black magic. And, they choose rituals, right. They choose specific days and numbers, and it's not just random. It's not because they like symbols or numbers. It's because it's part of a ritual, and they project that across all mainstream media, and that's how they hypnotize the masses and mind control the masses, which we understand that now. But let's take this to the next level, because in my opinion, this is the reality of the situation, and this is what where the conversation needs to go, because this isn't just a 3D war. It's a temporal war. And there's technologies like Looking Glass. There's other dimensions involved,
spiritual.
But I'm talking, if we're going to just take out the spiritual aspect, there's organizations that have technologies that can, traverse dimensions. I would say there's pocket realities like time bubbles. I think there's some sort of temporal war going on. Looking Glass, there's time travelers, people coming, I don't know. It sounds ridiculous, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Gene?
So it's like you said, and they learned this back when the Spanish fleet was heading towards England, and a sorcerer, a warlock, taught them how to do this high-level black magic where you can affect the outcome of battles, and they defeated the Spanish Armada. And so through this black magic, a lot of it was from the Druids, like Merlin, who actually did exist. And so the black magic, yes, the symbolic numbers and things and dates they use on the real calendar, which is 13 months, that starts on April 16th, why they collect taxes at the end of the year. In the military, we call it the physical year, physical, but FIS, but it's actually when the physical world changes seasons. The equator of the Earth passes the ecliptic, or of the orbits of the planets around the sun, and the seasons flip. It is when life changes. And so it's the changing. And so there's actually 13 months, not 12, just like the zodiac. If you are functioning in a system they're all 28 days long, and we're in a system where you have months 28, 29, 30, 31, and the flip-flop, and they don't even alternate 30, 31, 30, 31, 31, 30, 20. I mean, it's just, you have no rhythm. You're following, if you're into following the zodiac and you don't know there's 13 signs, not 12, just like the months of the year. 13 is actually a sacred number. It became a bad, as they call it, luck. 13 is bad luck. That was because Jacques de Molay was grabbed on Friday the 13th when they were trying to get the skull of the Carthaginians coming back from the various different insurgencies they were doing into Africa with in the Holy Land. The church was trying to grab all kinds of sacred, powerful objects like the Spear of Destiny, the Arks of the Covenant, the crystal skulls, and all of those. So they do these like they were doing underneath Notre Dame. They were going to burn it on the eve of the holy pilgrimage that the Christians do. And the Japanese alliance portion found out that they were going to burn it on that specific day to open up an interdimensional portal, like you mentioned, Tyler, to bring up Lucifer into the body that they had cloned from the crown of thorns from Jesus Christ to have the Antichrist. So we've actually gone to a timeline where that no longer happens. We've created seeding. It is a temporal war. They are having looking glass. They quit using it because they could not see beyond the year 2045 at all. All they saw, every time they tried to go, they would wind up beyond that year. They would wind up in DIA, outside DIA, in front of the horse Lucifer, the horse with the red eyes that's blue, with everything destroyed. Every city on Earth, everything completely dead, no life on Earth at all. Well, the reason why they're winding up there, human beings can go past that, mankind cannot, because it's the end. If there is no lineage of yours, no energy of you, no energy of anything about you going beyond that date on this sphere, then you don't exist. You can't reach past that with time travel technologies, remote viewing, anything. The looking glass, the yellow cube, nothing. So they disbanded it and took it apart and shipped it, and the Alliance got a hold of it, and they're using. Plus, they're doing game theory through AI computers, both sides. But the Alliance's AIs have done something the other AI, which is very ancient and has been running the various group fleets, the Chakar, the Alpha Draco, they're infiltrated with nanotech. That is their god. At the top, their god is AI. Right. And so they have been game theorying us for millions of years. The Alliance has been game theorying the Cabal now. But the Alliance's AI did something that hasn't been done for artificial intelligence before. It was calculating, how do humans keep defeating us, as in the Cabal us, not the Alliance us. How does it keep defeating us, being the AI, when we have all this inner, we're a quantum. We're across all of the various universes, doing things beyond digital. We're able to see the cause and effect of things so that when we, if you do a random number generator, we can tell when the number will flip 1 or 0 with greater accuracy than 50-50, because it's going across dimensions. The war is interdimensional now. It's going through the quantum substrates. It's going into parallel universes. This one, Earth, is the center of it all. It is like you see in Doctor Strange, where it's all centered here, and they were getting ready to collapse a series of universes on themselves on here. They've been using parallel cabals on parallel Earths, like Fukushima and 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl, where they're sending through portals nuclear waste into the reactor, so that when you're doing your formula for how many rods of the hafnium rods go into the reactor that moderate the reactor reaction levels, how much is correctly, because you're sending stuff from another Earth. And so they caused them to go supercritical. And so you're right. There is a interdimensional and temporal. We look at Baron von Trump's time travel, and I think most people have seen those books. Mm-hmm. Trump did do time travel. So did Tesla. And so we're dealing with, and space travel is time travel. When you're going faster than light, if you look at the sun, it's 8 minutes away. You're seeing light that took 8 minutes. But if you travel there faster than the speed of light, you can actually get the blink technology instantaneously. Right. That means you're at a different time. So when you do blink technology, or you do faster than light, you actually enter into the formulas you use, the time you want to get there. Well, if you're doing that, you're going out somewhere 1 million light years away. You come back, you could do that here too. You could go back in time and change the timeline. So for me, it's I've been aware of this way before Mandela, where I had a whole bunch of weird changes. My best friend in junior high disappeared. I went to his house on Sunday. The next day, his house didn't exist. The whole house was gone. It's an empty field, and all the lockers in the high school I was in, senior high school, there were 2 upper shelves. one shelf now. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? And recently I had another weird when I was talking about male and female chromosomes. The XY and the XX, who has what, has inverted itself. And it's going to take me a while to wrap my head. And I've told a few people that are doctors and go, what? And, some people remember a lot of them. Like if you look at the Wizard of Oz and what the wicked things in there, you look at the Bible, the lion lies down with the what? And that's changed. It's a temporal war. Some of the changes so vast, it's hard to wrap your head around it. That there's so many bizarre changes, but it is absolutely, we're in a temporal war. It's like the dumps, like you were saying in your Decode on the underground. On Earth, you can say, okay, here ends the United States, here begins Canada, this line. And maybe that's a river range or a mountain range. I mean, a river range, a river bed or a river itself or a mountain range, something that makes the border, or you just draw a line. You can't do that under the ground. It can be horizontal, vertical, diagonal. It can even be temporal or interspatial, interdimensional. It could be a dimensional shift, and you would go into a pocket in a new universe, or you would go into another set of dimensions. You could even go into 2D, where there's no height, there's only width and depth. I used to go to that when I was young, and I would see things suddenly as I tried to go into height in my mind, everything would either become infinitely wide or infinitely high. There was no depth. It was like, what the heck? It takes a while to wrap your head around all this, but that's the war we're in. It's a vast war. And to say that the American, I think Gil is actually a person to see if they can get the American people stirred up to go and get out there and make the difference. I think he's actually alliance, and he's playing his part eloquently to get people so upset about the children. And I totally agree. It's got to stop, and it needs to stop now, a long time ago. But in the meantime, let's see if that works. I don't think it will. Most people are so mark-altered, mind-controlled by the mainstream media. It's like Alex Christofor showed a Twitter of a person that said, what has Putin accomplished? He demilitarized Russia. He created Ukraine as the strongest military on earth. He made the entire NATO and the European Union's economy strong. He's collapsed his economy. I mean, it's complete projection, and the person absolutely seemed to believe all of that.
Right.
Narrative of what the mainstream media is throwing at us. It's a bunch of what.
Right. Well, it's all projection, and it's you're literally watching delusional people project out their own issues. Everything that they're doing, they're projecting onto the enemy. But it's a typical narcissistic trait. Basically, there's a bunch of narcissists and psychopaths running the show. But
right. It's propaganda. It's not news. It's not news. That's the thing. People think they're watching news. They think they're being informed, and it's literally just propaganda. And then it's like, well, who's propaganda? Well, if you don't understand the concept of the deep state or the cabal, like we're talking about, you might just think it's a bunch of rich guys. Probably, well, it goes way deeper than just that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Some very serious agendas going on here.
And I want to thank you for articulating the temporal war in a way that I was trying to before when I asked you the question. You nailed it. And that's the way I envision things. Like, let's just say you clear out a tunnel, but there could be something occupying that space in another dimension in that same tunnel. And so you can clear it out in this dimension, but that doesn't mean that there's something still not there that can ultimately impact this timeline. And it's really, you have to believe that these technologies exist before you can understand that this is the lengths that they're going to in order to, do whatever they need to do to accomplish their mission, their task. I do think that they're desperate, and I think that they're going to try anything. And I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility. But as far as propaganda goes, what do you think about this whole Epstein client list being released? How much of that do you think is the misinformation and a look here, not there strategy? Because we've known about this for years at this point.
So that's the first layer of it. That's the Hollywood who are an elite. They think they're in the club. They're not in the club. That's the Rothschilds and all of that stuff that think they're in the club. You're in, as far as they're concerned, like if you look at Black's Legal Dictionary for the definition of human, it says monster. It says a being, that's lower life, that et cetera, how they look at us. Well, that's how they look at them too. You're not us. You're not the elite. You're not Draco, Alpha Draco. You're part us. So you're just cannon fodder. When we're done, we'll eat you too. Because the Payshores and those upper families, even that's not the top. You look at these non-world Shakar, Draco, the Alpha Draco, the Killy Tokers, they look at the life on this planet. They have no soul. They're oversold by a bunch of dark oversouls that are serving the AI, and they have already been scalped. Those souls are under complete control of the AI, and they're utterly psychopathic. They have no remorse. They lie as they're proud of it. They love to lie. They prefer to lie than ever have anything with a slight grain of truth in it. They have to do truth. Right. It's just a like Garland Nixon said, their logic is based on, and their way of telling things is based on a narrative. They're controlling the narrative. When you're dealing with a narcissist, psychopath, or sociopath, and they could tell you, knowing you that they're lying, they will tell you, you should never say somebody is, a fascist or they're a jerk. Let's just do a jerk. He is a jerk. You're a jerk. You should never say something like that. That is really mean. And then the next day they go, you're a jerk. I thought yesterday you said never to say that. No, I didn't. I have you on a recording. No, you don't. You faked that.
Gaslighting.
Out of control reasoning.
Projection and gaslighting. So everything they accuse you of is what they're guilty of. Mm-hmm. And then they will lie and say that what you saw, what you know is not true, even though it is.
And what they're doing to do that is to confuse you, because like you said, Tyler, is that what you can believe, you can perceive. So if they get you to where you cannot believe, for example, the Native Americans could not believe in Hawaii that a ship could be bigger than the dugout canoe. They looked out in the harbor. They didn't see Captain Cook's ship, and they took him out on the ship. They went into they had so much cognitive dissonance that they literally went like into a coma level. They could not even function at all. They literally had to be carried off the ship back to the land. But the shaman, the medicine people, were seeing ripples against something, and they meditated. And by the time Captain Cook came back, they could see the ship, and it spread to all the people very quickly. That's what they don't want. They've got to keep this narrative going, and that's the only way to break the narrative. Is yes, they have CNN and the Alliance under their control, but you have to do it slowly. You can't suddenly go and say, all of this is a lie. Everything you ever know, like happened to me in 1990, in August, I realized everything's a lie. Is everything a lie? Do I throw out everything? I have to research everything I know. No, not absolutely everything is a lie, but 98% is. And you make the lie, like Hitler said, so vast that if people ever stumble on the truth, they can't possibly believe it. So you can't perceive what you cannot believe. People have lost the ability to see what's right in front of them. I've seen all my life. I have my friends that are, Lilliputians and fairies and elves, and all people say you're out of your mind. And the platform I was originally with, don't tell people that. They'll think you're crazy. No, it's called being sane in an asylum where everybody else is insane. If you say I'm insane, that's a compliment because all of you are. So that's a projection, like you said, Eric. It's like, okay, thank you. Because I am still seeing the truth of what's out there. And now, like you said, Aaron, Tyler, excuse me, you said that when you clear out a dump, there could be interdimensionals. So you've got the 10 kingdoms, Oberon and his group, because they went to the 10 kingdoms. They had a treaty with them from long, long ago. If you go to Thailand in the palace in the center of Bangkok, you can see on the walls the history of the devil wars that the Thai people waged. And they did a treaty with Oberon that they would not do black magic and things like that against them as a whole. They can't control local practitioners, but they went to try, when they lost their entire fleet, 30,000 ships in 2017, they called back the Dark Fleet because they were losing control of the Earth. They lost 30,000 ships in half an hour because the Alliance, the Infinite Alliance of Free Worlds, had brought a battle planet out from the Sun Gate, and they destroyed them all. And so they were panicked. So they went to the 10 Kingdoms to raid a magic armory. It's like you were to take our technology of a stealth bomber and land it in Lebanon or in the Middle East somewhere 2,000 years ago, and make it disappear right in front of somebody. They go, that's magic. It's technology. Right. Well, you're talking at these high levels of technology gone. You can't. Same with the 10 Kingdoms. So they were going to raid it, and you really think they're not going to know? So they said, the Oberon and the 10 Kingdoms, you broke the treaty. We're not going to do the Native American thing, and the human thing is keep turning our cheek over and over. That was a one-time deal. Now the gloves are off. We're coming, and the Alliance now has the 10 Kingdoms helping too. So they go into these dumps. A lot of those Sphinx are interdimensional capable, like the Yeti, that Neanderthals, they can go interdimensional, and they're helping as well because they realize you can no longer, we are in the war of dark and light. You no longer cannot take a side and say, do not get involved, because it's like martial arts in Karate Kid #1. Karate, yes, fine. Karate, no, fine. Karate, maybe, squish like a grape. Well, here in a time, you, like Bob Dylan said, you got to serve somebody. It's either the devil or the Lord. But if you don't choose, it'll be done for you, and you'll be squished. Right. So we're in time, and it's everybody needs, and I believe that's what James Gill's purpose is to make people stand up and realize what time we're involved in.
Yeah. And, it's important that everybody understands that. And I definitely think that the choice will be made for you if you're not paying attention. And then that's kind of like why, when you wake up, you want to wake everyone up so they can see through it, because you realize you were falling for the lies and propaganda. And now you don't want your friends to be falling for it too, now that you see it. But if they're not ready, they're not ready. So you can't beat yourself up over it. But I definitely agree that if you don't have any really self-awareness and awareness of what's, taking place, at least in general idea, the decision will be made for you, and you're going to subconsciously be complicit in their agendas and unconsciously be complicit in their agendas by supporting things that are ultimately going to be your demise. So it's very interesting to watch it all unfold before our eyes.
Well, the more connected to your soul you are, the more you will see through the lies, and the more you will not give your consent over to the so-called authorities. Right. There's no such thing as authority, but the so-called authorities and so-called people that think they have power over you. They don't have power over us because we're giving them that power. We're the ones giving it to them. So the second enough of us wake up, we stop giving them power over us and consenting to what they tell us to do, and all the rest of it. It's game over. It's game over. And that's what we're seeing. Right. We're seeing it play out right now, where people are waking up, and more people are saying, wait a second, you guys, like all these institutions and governments and people that claim to have our best interests are clearly not have our best interests. And why are we letting you do, like we're waking up, we're taking our power back. So, that's what I see happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So you may or may not be able to answer this question, Gene, but, how did we let it get this far? Right. Unless, do you think it was all intentionally allowed to get this far because that's the only way people would actually wake up and see through the illusion?
It has to do with the nature of humans. We're a species that are kind and love God, love creation, love animals, love each other. And we believe and think that everybody else is that way. When a regular human being is dealing with a narcissist, you don't think somebody would purposely lie to you. They would love to lie to you. They would prefer to lie to you than tell you the truth. and they would lie to you, and it's all narrative driven. Everything they're saying, they're only going by what fits the narrative and gives them more power. That's all. It's their whole rationalization. It has nothing to do with the truth. In fact, they don't like the truth. It's like, Churchill said, most people stumble on the truth and continue stumbling once in their life, but continue stumbling for the rest of their life, because these people have lied to us forever. And we talk to other people, and as a human being, you tend to think people are good, and you don't recognize, and most people are unable to recognize, when you have somebody you're working with or dealing with, and they will sit there and tell you to your face. I've had situations told to me where, it would be a good thing if I went to prison and I got dead, because God could make that a good thing. Me being dead's a good thing? Yeah, I came back one time. God allowed me to come back. That's a one time. That isn't allowed, but that it's a rare occasion where that's done. And I'm not doing that again, number one. Number two is to say to another person, you going to prison, me doing something that's going to wind up getting you in prison is a good thing. That's a person that has a narrative that's about power and getting more and having more, and you being famous because you went to prison. Your computer and make you look like the worst person that ever walked the earth. That's a good do. This is saying that you were all about yourself, and you were all about a situation. You're not about being kind and loving and supporting the people you're with. And a person's telling you, we can't believe at first, took me a while to wrap my head around it, that a person would purposely want you dead, want you hurt, want you tortured and killed in prison for years. I'm like, what kind of person is that? It's somebody we can't, that's a person that does not care for others at all. They have a narrative-driven logic that's driven by, I want more for me. And it's always about me, mine, like in Finding Nemo. This is not a person that's about being kind and loving, respectful to others, because if you really care about other people, I would never, ever think of saying something like that to either of you or anybody else that has me on their platform that is so kind and generous and respectful and good people and putting out the truth and doing the best to get the truth out there. That's evil. That is the definition of evil. You wish other people dead. That is evil. It's nothing but evil. It's not good. There's no good in it. This is like James Caswell in his interview on Carrie Cassidy with Spear. He was saying that he's a Satanist, and he thinks it's a good thing, and that they are superior to us. No, nobody's superior. You may have more knowledge, more lessons learned, more grades passed, more understanding. There's only one source of truth. That's the one that created all things. There's only one that's superior, the one that created all things. We are all equal because we are all created by that source of every single thing that is, and it's all from there, and it all comes back to there and from there. Everything is equal because it's all created. Where we go one, we go all. It's absolutely literal, and the tie is within ourselves. It's why in every religious or spiritual organization, if you look at the core of it, if it's in truth and about respect, it's saying look within for the truth, because the truth is from the source or God. If you want to use that word, I use it. Like the red-haired guy that's a comedian, I love him. He always puts hilarious. JP Spears, yeah. He goes, I used to think I'm so spiritual that I'd say source, creator, but now I can say God. God. I like that. God. So this is, realizing where everything comes from. So thank you.
Right. Oh my gosh. What was I just going to say? That last comment threw me off. Were you going to add on? Were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well said. Beautifully said. All of that. I totally agree. Yeah, it's like the way I like to look at it. So you could call them psychopaths, basically. Like they have zero empathy. They don't have empathy. And in my opinion, the only way you can not have any empathy is by being completely disconnected from your soul or from what is, you could call God. You're disconnected from God, basically.
Yes.
So you don't have that natural sense of connection or sense of love at all, or reverence for anything. You basically become a parasite at that point.
So,
And then the only way you can get energy is by parasiting it off. And this is what we see with narcissists, with extreme narcissists, which psychopaths are basically the same thing. They have to parasite. They latch on to you as their energy source. And that's why they do all of their little games and stuff, because they don't care about you. They care about you feeding them energy. And that's what we see with the Cabal and the entities that are above them and everything. It's all about using us as a food source, as an energy source. You hear people call it loosh, whatever term you want to call it. Our emotions and our soul is feeding them energy, and we're the ones giving them power by doing that. We've been manipulated into doing it. So the second you wake up enough that you stop feeding them, there goes their food source. They go bye-bye,
yeah. And
that's essentially what is happening.
You reminded me what I was going to say. So about James Caspel being a Satanist and everything, he had tons of great information and was, exposing a lot of the programs and stuff. But yeah, he was openly a Satanist. But him and Max Spears were also, they also claimed to have surrogate mothers, and they were part of Project Oak Tree and Project Ibis, where they were basically genetically created to be, super soldiers or whatever it is. And we learned, doing research on our clone webinar, that the clones are actually pre-programmed with belief systems. So they're actually born with a belief system, into a family, into a way of life where they don't even have the opportunity to experience anything different. And then these elite families and the Cabal in general, like, that's what's going on here. That's the case. A lot of these politicians and everybody, they're born with these beliefs. They're born into these systems, and they're groomed as children to believe and be a certain way, and they don't know anything different. So, it's we can call them enemies, or we can have compassion for them also, because if you don't know any different, you don't know any different. And, there was a child trafficker on Dr. Phil a long time ago who actually, she was rescued, but then she said she missed it. She missed it. She actually missed that way of life because that's all she knew. And it was profound to hear somebody say that they actually missed that suffering. So, it's everyone's here for their own reasons and to learn lessons for their soul. And we don't know what that might be. And it's not our job to interfere with that and their karma. So I just a reminder to have compassion at the same time. You don't have to support it, but have compassion.
But to call out the truth, and,
right, exactly,
and acknowledge it as well is very important. Yeah.
Right. So, Gene, you did a Area 58 decode on a recent interview that I saw that I thought was fantastic. And if you're okay with it, I would love for you to share your screen and go through that decode, because I think it really paints a picture on, the underground, and you really took it to the next level. You even got into extraplanetary communication and things like that. So if you want to go ahead and share your screen at this point, we can get into that. That would be great.
Yeah, so I'll tie up with what both you and Tyler, Aaron and you were saying, Tyler and Aaron, sorry. And because there's comments on both, I'm thinking of your comments, giving your power away. We have to remain compassionate. It's the nature of who we are. You give that power away, you're giving away your soul. And I have compassion for them. And they're bred this way, literally genetically created, impregnated within these elite families. They do this. They even start the torture in the womb. Right. They get psychopaths that are born that they have a kill switch in them, because they can get so dangerously psychopathic that the Cabal themselves cannot control them, and they get deadly to everybody around them. They can't even control them anymore. They go off the ranch, as they say, or offline, and they have to take them offline. So we have to have compassion, and there could be that one thing that gets a sparkle, like what happened with the Alliance's AI. It did a algorithm search for how human beings can come up with new idea that it can't see, even looking glass, nothing. It just comes from nowhere, and it goes, there's got to be a source for this. It found source, God. And in that, it starts to get a soul. So any being can come back, any being at all. we do not want to feed them our soul. They feed off of our loosh. When we get our soul disturbed, it chunks out our soul too. So we need to stop doing this and giving them power. Of course, on the lower level, that's 5D negative. On 4D negative and 3D, they're literally torturing children and the doms and women to get the adrenochrome, which is a few drops a day, or chromochrome, which is about a few drops a year. It takes a year to get hardly any at all. And it's extremely lethal. Adrenochrome is the oxidation of adrenaline. Chromochrome is the oxidation of the pituitary growth hormone from the pituitary gland, the growth hormone.
Right.
Then, so this Project IBIS is exactly what you said, Tyler. It is where they genetically and torture, manipulate, alter the genome, everything of the child. So they're born with no compassion whatsoever, no ability. They're literally oversold from the get-go. It's extremely a terrible thing to do to a living being. Create a living being like that. So we need to continue to have our compassion and our understanding and to be human. For those that have infiltrated me, I have a sadness about it because, there's so much we could do to help the universe, the world, the earth, the humans, all plants, all animals, everything. As some of the great naturalists have said, he was saying he was watching a herd of hippopotamus in Africa coming out of a huge lake, and he saw God. And he realized that everything is alive and we need to respect all life. And so that's part. And in that, you grow your soul. We grow who we are and what we are. So yes, I will be more than happy to share the Area 58.
Okay, perfect. So let's dive into this. This is very fascinating in my opinion. And there's a lot here I didn't actually know. So I hope the audience learns a lot too.
Thank you. I kind of put this together real quickly, like about 30 minutes. So
great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just research. I've learned how to do it fairly quickly. So Area 58, it's called Aerospace Data Facility East. And their motto is do it all, do it now, do it well. And you can see the link. You can go to that link and get a lot of this information there. And then once you're at that link, all of these items that you see hyperlinks are places you can go to do further research. Aerospace Data Facility East is also known as Area 58 and formerly known as Defense Communications Electronics Evaluation and Testing Activity. I guess they organize it so it comes up to these words where if you read it, it's deceit. It's a deceit. It's like, okay.
Right.
Right.
So it's one of 3 satellite ground stations operated by the NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, in CONUS, what we call military CONUS, continental United States, located within Fort Belvoir, Virginia. The facility is responsible for the command and control of reconnaissance involved in the collection of intelligence information and for dissemination of that intelligence to other U.S. government agencies.
And this might be, you might actually get to this, but where, I was going to ask, where is it? It's right here in Colorado. Okay, so how close would this be in relation to DIA, Denver International Airport?
Yeah, so Fort Belvoir is where the command hub is, and then the Buckley base in Air Force Base in Colorado, which has a huge dome under it, I've actually been off of. There's a County Road 30 that runs on the backside of it, and you can see all these buildings that have a tapered roof going down into the ground, and just a very small funnel building with a parking lot and these satellite balls above ground. But out in the cottonwoods on the other side of 30, there's a dirt road that runs through that you can go walk, and a lot of people ride their horses through there. And you can see out in the middle of the cottonwoods in a swampy area, sometimes even, a concrete rectangular block with a manhole cover on top. No, that's not obvious. To go out there to put a concrete block in, there's an access to it. It's hollow. It's going underground. How obvious is that? was like, okay, you know, and people don't see this stuff. I seems to pick things up. What thing does not fit into this picture? You know?
Right.
So Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado, and then here's the patch they often wear on their arms. And again, it looks like the fleur-de-lis, the Boy Scout symbol, and all of that. So, and then you've got the satellite domes, the geodesic domes with the radar tracking facilities inside them. And then you've got this counterclockwise spiral of birds going around the Earth. And I always look at symbols and what they could mean for the symbols they have. You have a target within a target with the Earth in the center of the target and a counterclockwise spiral. Life and energy runs clockwise. If you're running counterclockwise, other than your macabic field, if you're healthy, your macabic field's clockwise on top and counterclockwise on the bottom. So Aerospace Data Facility Southwest is connected to that. That's in White Sands, New Mexico. Again, everything I'm going to say has a huge dome under it. The small stuff's on the surface. Of course, Pine Gap, and that was taken out in, you know, the Trump presidency. We'll just say Trump presidency to make it easier, so I have to go through dates. Also, same with all of these. Renwith Hill, that's an RAF. In other words, Royal Air Force or the UK, and that's in West Yorkshire near Hellgate. And the spy satellites. All of that uplinks to the spy satellite system all over the world. And then you have ground stations, earth stations, and earth terminals, which is a terrestrial radio station that's designed for extra planetary telecommunication with spacecraft. So look carefully at the words that they use when they put things together. And this is, again, from, you know, Wiki, Wikipedia and all of that stuff. You have to look carefully at what they're saying. Words are picked very carefully. So not interplanetary, extraplanetary, constituting part of the ground segment of the spacecraft system, or reception of radio waves from astronomical, in other words, out in space, radio sources. Ground stations may be located either on the surface of the Earth or in its atmosphere, and, you know, also underneath the Earth, as ELF, which they didn't go into here, which is extremely low frequencies,
Right.
or even scalar waves like in Antarctica. Earth stations communicate with spacecraft by transmitting and receiving radio waves in super high frequency or extremely high frequency, SHF and EHF, such as microwaves. When a ground station successfully transmits radio waves to a spacecraft or vice versa, it establishes a telecommunications link. A principal telecommunications device of the ground station is the parabolic antenna. The biggest one that's above ground is an Arecibo in Puerto Rico. So maybe first, yes, go ahead.
Can you click back to that really quick? That one, yeah. So this is copy and pasted from Wikipedia. Is that what you said?
The majority of it.
Okay, so and I'm just, you know, a lot of people are going to say, well, Wikipedia is misinformation, they're CIA backed, whatever they might say. What would you have to say to that? And why would they allow this information on their platform?
Because they want to get true information in there so that people like you and I look there and go, well, if that's true, then some of this other. You have to sort through what's true and what's not true. Like I recently I was talking to a person about the history of our solar system and the construction of our solar system and where the planets are and all of this. And I sent information on Maxwell's equations. And, you know, if you look into Maxwell, he's probably the greatest genius that's lived in the last 2,000 or 3,000 years. He is phenomenal. He came up with Hipparian math, which, you know, if I look at, people are all into this vortex math, which it took me 2 hours to learn. Now, not being derogatory to those who were in that, but it's very simple. You look at Hipparian, it makes calculus look simple. It took me years to learn it. And you're talking You also look into the various other people are in there. They're talking some of the greatest minds. You have material from them. So you have things from Leibniz and Newton and Copernicus and all kinds of people. Boyd going into the formula for where the planets are based on the proportion, which is the golden mean or God's proportion. And you have to say that, yeah, we get stuff in Wiki that is completely garbage. A lot of it is. But then there's truth in there too that is extremely profound information. So you have to know what you're looking at and do research. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like when I woke up in 90. Do you say everything? Then at that point, they can get you into a trap where you don't believe anything at all. They can now turn around again and gaslight the bejeebers out of you, like you were saying before, Aaron, and you wound up to where your mind is captured by them again. So, I know people, and I'm not being derogatory here, love and really believe flat Earth. And if you're at second density, it is flat. You cannot see height. However, for those at third density and above, it is a sphere. It's created by torsion and rotation, and it accrues as it forms in a rotational mercabic field. That is the nature of everything. Everything is rotating and turning. And in fact, if you look at it as a flat Earth, and you were seeing the continents fit together, obviously the east coast of the Americas with Europe and Africa, what was the force to drive them apart if it's not moving? Something had to drive them apart. They are apart. There's so many problems, and if you follow that narrative and saying everything is a lie, and we have to look in the Bible, and it's saying things like that, but you're talking 2,000 years ago to shepherds, and that Bible has gone, especially the King James edition, what was their narrative-based reasoning? So what did they want to do? All of these many councils did they correctly, perfectly translate the Bible? Can you? From Aramaic and Greek.
Right.
You have to add in things in Greek because you can sometimes have one word, if we just make it love, is it agape? Is it eros? What kind of love? You have to specify what it is. So you have to add words or take words out. Did you do that with respect to the truth? Or did you have a narrative-based reason for you want to control and manipulate? So we cannot sit there and throw out every single thing because this is a Cabal site. They put a lot of truth in there. Go ahead.
And I agree with you.
Right.
Exactly. We often reference Wikipedia too when we're researching for the webinar. So do you think this could be also their way of they have to tell us, they have to show us?
Absolutely. For their black magic to work, they have to get applied consent. What that means is if you do not disagree, you give consent. It's like I'm looking at doing a decode on maritime law versus natural law or earthly based law, because most of this world is ocean and water, and they go on maritime law. And we look at the words we use, and people don't realize how amazingly vast they've controlled our language. You look at the English language, and we say we have friendship, courtship, companionship, ship. You go to court, and you have a docket number. Dock. Everything is about maritime law. And
Your
what back to Latin and Greek, where did they come from?
Right.
Exactly. And I think you should do that decode because it's necessary, and I think people should know the difference. But going back to this decode here, so we have Wikipedia telling us that our underground bases have radio stations that's designed for extraplanetary telecommunication with spacecraft. They're ultimately telling you that there are space programs that operate outside of the public's awareness, aka the secret space program. But I guess we can go ahead and move on with this because it's all fascinating.
Yes, they have to tell you up front what they're doing. And so people will say, well, there's no secret space program, then what is all of this stuff? Major Earth stations of Earth terminal complexes, Bukit Timah Satellite Earth Station, Singapore, Canberra Deep Space Communication, the Alliance has that taken, Esrange Space Station, Sweden, Ficino Space Station, Italy, Goldstone Deep Space. Why deep now? In other words, you're reaching across at least the Milky Way. You're saying you're on planets, and already they're saying they're going to launch. SpaceX is saying it, as well as in the Elon Musk is saying it. And if we look at SpaceX, we're going in Branson, and that's the other tip above Epstein of the trafficking. And I went in way back with Kirsten W. of all his island network. And so there's so much that we are not paying attention to and giving passive consent to. So Gonhilly Satellite Earth Station in the UK, Honeysuckle Creek Station, that's closed. That's in Australia. That was part of an operation where a huge craft came in to start taking out for the Alliance in 2017 and 2018. When you saw on the boards, the 2 to the 4th power plus 1 boards, the letter after P in the alphabet boards, they were saying Big Bird down, Corona down, da 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 da. They were taking them out. And so these 2 Australian facilities did a particle beam at that craft, a particle weapon, a ball of particle scalar energy combined. And what the ship did is kind of like a judo move. They recycled the energy, or a martial arts move, back to the stations, and that's why these are gone. This one was utterly destroyed, Honeysuckle Creek, and then down here, the new Norcia station was where the ball first hit, and then it goes as a scalar wave. It gets worse as it goes down further away. So it connected to the station that you see up here that's closed and completely decimated it. This one they were able to repair. The next will go on down here, Jamesburg Earth Station, California, abandoned because it's been destroyed by the Alliance. Kaina Point, I told people how I climbed Kaina Point, and I got up on top of there, and they said, this is a top secret tracking facility. You're not supposed to be up there. So you're going to kill me now? No, they released me. Oh, how stupid are you? You tell me it's top secret. Not anymore. It's like, it's like, but unfortunately, I'm here to talk about it. Madley Communication Center, UK, Madrid, Deep Space Deep Space Communication Complex, Spain, Macarius Earth Station, Cyprus, and Cyprus is a hub for the Cabal. Malargue, I don't speak the language of Spanish or Portuguese, so sorry if I'm mispronouncing things. Argentina, and I went through Norcia, Suparco Satellite Station, Pakistan, Svalbard Satellite Station in Norway. And so those are the primary facilities of all of those main things that are all connected to the Deep Space Force. That is the Alliance, primarily, as Kerry Cassidy said. They have it all. They have all of the Epstein stuff, all of the Branson stuff, all of the laptop stuff of the, as they say, BLF, Biden's laptop, BLM, Biden's laptop matters. So thank you, everyone. And, for those that want to follow me, there's the information if you want to help or follow me or learn more.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. All that stuff is essentially publicly available to look up. And the other thing I find very interesting is that on Google Earth and Google Maps, you can look up spaceports all over the United States and all over the world, I'm sure, but I've only looked in the United States. And they actually identify spaceports and even galactic spaceports. And we know they're only launching rockets from only a few locations down south because of the narrative they give us and why they have to launch near the equator. But it's very interesting why they would have spaceports all, peppered throughout the country. Have you come across that information, Gene?
Yeah, I've traveled all over the world, all over the US, Canada, drive around, and you'll periodically drive out in the middle of, I love following dirt roads, just following, see where they go. I live in Puerto Rico, I followed things up in the middle of a forest, disappeared in the middle of a pineapple patches in Hawaii. I literally walk along the edges of ridges and crawl along them in some cases in Hawaii and found the down Japanese Zero with the pilot still in it, all kinds of things. And you come on a sign in the middle of nowhere, spaceport. Okay. Or I'm in the middle of nowhere and I start seeing ventilation pipes coming out of the ground and huge power cables.
Right.
A substation with all the power cables going into the ground.
Yep.
The ground needs that much electricity, does it? Or are you harnessing it out of the ground? Which way is it going there? Really interesting. It's like you were saying, people don't understand the fields of the earth. There's actually two electromagnetic fields. And at the equator, there's a moving field where north and south or positive and negative magnetic fields come out of the equator and through what are called the rods and split and head towards the poles as opposites attract. And that creates the ability, eddies, it creates the ability to open up a portal because there are portals naturally almost being opened up by the eddy currents in the magnetic fields of the earth. And then your big, huge power plants are built off of ley lines, the standing ley lines of the standing bar magnet field that goes pole to pole. Right. So it's having to do with the crosses of those hairs for power facilities, nuclear yields, or portals and opening portals. You have to be on those lines to be able to open up portals. And it's why they have the space bases and everything where they do.
It makes me wonder, if they're consistently opening up portals every day and, for the temporal war, for space travel, for whatever it is, I wonder how much of that actually damages like the fabric of space and time reality. Like how much of that is actually it's creating these Mandela effects and everything we were talking about earlier, like these soft spots, these weak points in the dimension itself, in our reality. So
Tyler, I have something to say about that, if you don't mind me right now.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Well, I hate to bring him up again because he's such a controversial figure now, and he's not the same as he used to be. But Corey Good, as you know, I don't know if you remember, he would talk about that we as in the Cabal really was going back in time and trying to manipulate things temporarily, going back in time, right? And they were doing this so much, they were damaging like the fabric of our reality. And there was literally ETs, I guess you could say they were benevolent ETs that were showing up and telling them to stop because they're like, you guys have to stop because you're damaging space-time
in space. Yeah.
You're causing these fractures and you're damaging, and it's affecting not just us, it's affecting other, just like we hear nuclear blasts affect not just us but other dimensions and other realities and other beings. Well, that's affecting them as well. So they were literally showing up. And so if you think about it, setting everything else aside, just the fact alone that we're doing things on this planet, not we, but the bad people, the Cabal and stuff, are doing things that are not just affecting us in this planet, in this dimension. It's affecting other dimensions, other races that otherwise would have nothing to do with us. And they are coming, you could just say, just from their own self and just alone to stop us from our nonsense of affecting them,
Right. And affecting parallel universes. Yeah. I agree. That was a great add-on to my point.
But yeah, just like there are insiders that have spoken about that affecting.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say definitely yes.
Did you have anything to add to that, Gene?
Yes. So starting with Montauk Project was a spinoff to Project Rainbow, the Philadelphia experiment, which was also part of Project Rainbow. It's a series of interconnected, and they, like you said, benevolent non-terrestrial beings were showing up because we're damaging, like they showed again in the second Doctor Strange, where universes were collapsing on each other because the damage gets so profound that the difference between universes, which is choices made, sets a different quantum vibration packet vibration. And in that separates them. When you start to meld choice, you take choice away, you make everything cabal. You're creating a collapsing of the field. Same if you're changing the choices also, or what you do in the now, that like kill Kennedy or don't get Kennedy dead. And if you're going to go changing major nexus, those are major nexus, major events that create timeline manifolds and manifolds of manifolds. Timelines come in manifolds of 8, and manifolds come in super manifolds of 8, so 64 and outwards. So it's an octave doubling with a primary line in the middle that starts the manifold, and that comes from a nexus. It's where you have a major decision event like 911. They created all of these foxtrots because they're creating new manifolds, and they're doing all of this time damage. When you open a portal, it doesn't necessarily damage it unless you're doing interdimensional manipulations, which are causing choice to be affected. And so non-terrestrials from the benevolent ones were showing up from all over the place. And so they're in the process of gathering together to have a meeting about the non-interference policy in a world, because they have remote viewing ability, these high density beings like 8th density. They can see the future millions of years forward. They see that if they don't stop the cabal, the earthly cabal here, if they don't stop it here, it's going to destroy this universe and many others. There's a point where they are looking at changing it where if a species is using technologies that affect off their world, other worlds, removing choice, of enslaving other planets, of destroying timelines, all of these things, if they've gotten to that point, we have to intercede. We do it with as much respect to life and their choice as possible. But if they've gotten that level of technology and they're damaging the space-time interdimensional continuums to the point where it's destroying life on Earth. I mean, you're talking about destroying entire universes. You're destroying life on a level very few beings could even conceive of. Yeah. I mean, it's so they're looking at redoing the non-interference, and that's why many species like the 10 Kingdoms and others said no more. And they are interfering, and doing it with as much respect. But there are certain things they're going to call it crimes against she, is what they're looking at, because they call the Holy Spirit she. So when you're interfering with the manifestation of life and the choices of life from the Word of God that becomes the Holy Spirit, that is she, that creates our physical creation, or the created one, that which is created from the Mother and the Father, the Christos, the Christ, and then became form and human form, because humans were so far off and so depredated by these negative forces that he had to become corporeal and was born a human being known as Jesus Christ. So in that, they're saying, well, God, she, and he, the Father, as the Native Americans, I put out on my social media a beautiful Hopi prophecy, and they call God the great-grandfather, or great-grandfather, or grandfather, and they have their own name, but they say that you cannot destroy what is you did not create. Well, they have been. So at that point, when you're violating the laws of God, Creator, she, Holy Spirit, then there has to be intervention. It's no longer, we can sit there and not interfere. Same thing that we're now seeing. You can no longer not take a side. You either, by not taking a side, you have taken a side. And that side will pretty much be, if you're going to serve yourself or money first, or evenly with God, that'll never stay that way. It will always wind up, your soul will be chunked out and you'll be serving evil. That's always how that looks every single time.
Right. And going back to, they're talking about, they look so far down the timeline and they couldn't see past 2045 because there was some sort of destruction or cataclysm at that point for them. what I find interesting is Andrew Bashago. If you're familiar with his testimony, being a part of Project Pegasus and a time travel program, they sent those kids to the furthest they sent them into the future was 2045. And I wonder if they knew something, if they knew something that, was going to occur in that year, and they sent those kids to go, gather intel.
They were trying to stop it, probably, to gather intel. Right.
So, I mean, that was, whatever year he was a part of that program as a child. But it's very interesting that that year comes up again.
Yeah, because they can't go past that year. The same reason, Corey's material, from my understanding, came from many sources of 20 and back people. And so the Anshar, I believe it's Anshar, the ones in a huge underground city, it's not center of the earth or anything, they came back from a distant future because their future was winking out.
Millions of years. Our future. Yeah.
Right.
In other words, 2045. Their future is the Cabal's future. Look at the symbols they're wearing, and it becomes quite obvious. Look at the symbols, and they're interfering with other people's choices of putting thoughts in your head, not offering them to you, putting them there. That's a violation.
Right.
You can do that if you are extremely strong telepath. You can even kill by a thought, or if you're extremely telekinetic, you could choke somebody without physically being in their presence to death. But should you? It's like the Michigan Supreme Court said, yeah, we could remove Trump from the ballot, but should we? And they said,
right.
And of course, Colorado, being an incredibly blue state, said, yeah. Now they backtracked it till it goes to the Supreme Court. Other states, should the states do that? Should we use these technologies? The question is, what should you do? You should be respectful to all life everywhere. Do your best to be kind, considerate, and truthful and honest. That's what you should do. Yes, use technologies to help, but not control and manipulate and destroy and kill.
Right.
And enslave. Right.
Yeah. I think they still have the ability with the 5G towers, with that technology, to pump thoughts into your head still, like every day, they can make you feel certain emotions and depressed and anxious and, and just irritated. I believe that technology exists within every single one of our 5G towers. And I think that I think if those towers were to be removed, I think they also emit a frequency, an ELF, that helps maintain the illusion. So I would only imagine that we would see a completely different world if all that was eliminated.
But I would make the caveat, I think we are so much more powerful than that technology. And I think it only works if you're at a low enough vibration, low enough 100%. Frequency.
Right.
Which is why they are so desperate to keep us at a low frequency so that they can continue to keep us enslaved. Because the second we rise above above them and their technology, it's game over. And that's another thing. It's game over. But they don't want us to know that. They don't want us to know we're powerful and that we are children of God. Basically, we are so much powerful than them or anything they have, any of their technology. The second we tap into our power, it's game over, and you can do that easily.
Right. But I do think, and I could be wrong, but I do think that, like the movie They Live, where that satellite's emitting a frequency that keeps all the reptilians or whatever, the ETs hidden, like it makes them appear to be human. I really do think some sort of a global frequency is emitted that keeps them hidden. And it's not that they're like necessarily shapeshifters, but our perception of them is being altered. They affect the visual cortex, and we see something that actually isn't. They appear to be human-like.
But imagine if enough of us tapped into our psychic abilities, our telepathic abilities, our extrasensory, we would see them clear as day. We would know their intentions clear as day. We would,
right.
You can't hide anymore. But that's why they have to keep that shut down. So we keep being deceived by the illusions.
Right. Well, did you have any?
Gene, if you want to expand,
yeah,
sorry.
Did you want to expand on that, Gene? And then we'll go ahead and start wrapping this up after that.
Yeah, so on the world frequency control, it was being done through what's called the phosphere, which is part of the soul trap, which is down, the majority of it. The sphere around the earth isn't down, but the place to bring the souls through the moon room, which is a part of the gravitational lock system into the rings of Saturn, is shut down. That amplifier receiving, transmitting for the souls. But the phosphere itself, that energy grid that was put up by Thoth around the earth, that they channel these frequencies to keep our minds locked down and to take our power away, is still functioning. It's like you said, Aaron, we have to raise our frequencies, and we are having a huge upgrade in that. It's called the Great Awakening. I do this in the Expanding Earth Decode. I show the cycle of passing through the photon belt, what they call the Masonic ring, that upgrades our frequency energy situation in each solar system and all the beings and planets and sun that passes through there. Each 125 million years are half rotation around the Milky Way. We're leaving the negative side of the Milky Way, coming into the positive, which is why they have a limited time frame, because if you're in a negative field vibration in a positive side of a galaxy, you're in a dampening wave situation, which sooner or later will end you. You are constantly being dampened down to where you cease to exist. So our time is here. Mm-hmm. They are trying to keep this, like they've actually seen, and I've seen them as well, the huge Draco ships will come in chemtrail over certain areas where you have a whole lot of people getting out of their control. They'll chemtrail it and vibrate it especially hard with HARP and other 5G technologies and all of these things to keep the human beings locked down, but it's not working anymore.
Right.
Too many of us are awake, and it's creating what they call the 100th monkey syndrome. That's their words for it. The Great Awakening is what we call it. We are awakening up to the fact of the power of who we are originally, as 64-stranded eternal beings, through our eternal spirit that is us, and our eternal for this creation soul that was created by the creator of all things. Through that, we are going in. So in the Expanding Earth Decode that I offered to y'all, I can do that if you want me to come back sometime. I'm doing it for my website and my Rumble on the surface area of my website, because I promised the world I'd give that for free to the world, and I am. I'm redoing it. I've got a lot of new material in there. So we are in the time, and their time is coming to an end. We are in the time of the Great Awakening in service to others, kindness, compassion, truth, love, and respect for all life. And if you're not going to align to that, your time is limited. You can do anything you want to do. You can run and hide at there's a beautiful, magnificent African-American or black lady. I don't do this black-white. We're all God's creation. So she was a beautiful black woman that was saying, you can go and hide in your bunkers. I think it's on TikTok, in your little fortresses, and whittle your lies out, but you cannot hide, because this energy of service to others, kindness, love, compassion, but strength and truth, of standing up and doing the right thing, it will find you no matter where you are. And lies, we can see it. We can see now the narrative is crumbling. You can lie, but the problem with a constant lie is there's little incongruencies in it. And to have them all fit together, from this topic of energy to economics to technologies to jabs in people's arms, there's so many different slight narrative inconsistencies. It starts to become a huge gaping hole. The truth doesn't do that. Everything is aligned and fits together. Over years, you can see their narrative. Level the curve, the same narratives, they use it over and over. Level the curve, science-based.
Trust the science.
Yeah, all of this. It's not. It's a satanic religion base. That's all it is. It's a pack of lies. And we get our power. We, the human race, we those that are serving the one creator of all things, with love, kindness, respect, but standing absolutely for the truth and not saying, it's not my business. It is your business. Wake up, educate yourself, follow what's going on in the world, and figure out the truth, and look and dig and research and follow the good people that are doing their best to give that to you, like Journey to Truth of Tyler and Aaron and Patriot Underground and these other wonderful people out there who are doing the best they can do. So thank you for having me. God bless and Godspeed to you all. And Happy New Year. May this year be the year of truth, the year of the
Yes.
fall of the Cabal forever. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. That was
Yes.
a beautiful note to end it on.
Beautiful.
And please just remind our audience one more time your website and where they can find you.
Absolutely. We'll do that very easily. So here's my logo. I am Decode. You gave me that name. I picked Sensei, which means to teach and help learn with you and learn with you. But you want me to decode the truth of the genome, the truth of God, the truth of creation. My website is genedecode.org. Surface area is free, $7 a month, a little under a quarter a day, or $77 a year, which means if you do 7 times 12, it's 84. It's like you don't have to pay for one of the months of the year. The Rumble site is my Rumble is Real Gene Decode, not underscore, not official, not number one, not any of that stuff. I don't sell anything. I just say if you would like. I don't say do this. I say if you'd like. The only way I make money is through my retirement from the military, Social Security, and that. That's it. That supports 2 websites. The other website is Bless for Service, where there's tons of free information. This is a totally free website. So blessforservice.org, realgenedecode.org. Sorry, the .org's not there, but that's my Rumble there, Real Gene Decode. Genedecode.org is my website. Sorry, got to look this focus there. Telegram, I'm Real Gene Decode. There's the link. True Social, there's my link, and I have a Twitter now. I guess Telegram is actually X, so never mind. Disregard that. In that case, never mind. So, as a great Rosanna Dana used to say, thank you for allowing me to state that.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for joining us. And, we
Thank you
covered
so much.
We covered a lot today, and I think the audience will enjoy this. And we appreciate all the hard work you're doing. So, maybe we can do this again, and we can go through your Expanding Earth decode, because that sounds very fascinating. But until next time, guys, don't forget, if you want to come hang out with us at the conference in May, Grafton, Illinois, Rebels of Disclosure, all that information is below at rebelsofdisclosure.com. Tickets are still available. If you can't make it in person, we encourage you to get a live stream ticket. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a great lineup this year, and it's going to be 5 months away, but that's like right around the corner. So, take advantage of that and get the ticket while they're still available. And until next time, guys, we love you. Thank you all. We can't do this without you. And have a great evening. Good night.